It's been almost 3 years since I created this channel. I tried everything to get your attention in the beginning. I started with easy to make videos using Ultimate Team cards. Then I moved on to videos more like the ones I make today, recorded in the garage, with a Guitar Hero mic constantly interrupted by barking dogs. I wasn't making money, I barely got any feedback, but the truth is, it wasn't talent that got me to 10,000 subs. After all, I'm just another fan like you. The only difference is that I decide to share my perspective on knowledge that anyone can find on 00 or Transfer Market. What brought me here was consistency. Mine and my editors, which allowed us to celebrate small big wins like hitting 10k subs. And that's why I couldn't ignore someone who, with the same consistency, spent nearly 3 months requesting every other video an analysis of Beira-Mar. A fan of this channel, who doesn't even seem to have any connection to Portugal, showed more interest in a Beira-Mar video than many bigger clubs have ever inspired. And over time, that really got me thinking. Why would someone on the other side of the world be so eager to watch a video about a club that no longer plays on the main stage? Sure, I could have just ignored it, said it's not worth it, that it won't get views, that no one cares, but then I thought, not long ago I was making videos about topics I didn't even care about just to find my audience, and now that I have people asking for videos on the topic I love most, I'm going to ignore it just because it might not get views? You know what? Fuck the views. Today is the day. This is the Beira-Mar video, the video nobody asked for except one person for 3 months straight. But is it really worth talking about this club? The club from the Portuguese Venice, with a big modern stadium that lived an actual inspirational movie in 1999 and once had true legends wear the yellow kit. That answer I'll let you give me at the end of the video. But first, and as usual, let me give you some context. Beira-Mar was founded in Aveiro in 1922 by a group of boys from a neighborhood with the same name as the club. Their first promotion to the top flight only came in 1961, but unfortunately that season ended in the worst possible way. In the years that followed, Beira-Mar didn't sink, but they also never truly established themselves as a first division team. Although the 70s brought more joy than disappointment, the team from Aveiro never managed more than survival and never stayed in the top flight for more than 3 consecutive years. And what makes this even more disappointing is that Beira-Mar had support. It was a club of its region, and they even had Eusébio. But the Black Panther was no longer the young striker who destroyed everyone in the 60s. Eusébio played for Beira-Mar in the 1976-77 season, but only scored 3 goals in 12 matches, and the club ended up relegated. The 80s were mostly a nightmare. It was only at the end of the decade that Beira-Mar returned to the top division, and that's when their prime truly began. With players like Oliveira, Dino, Silvério and later Cristiano, Palazzi and Fari, Beira-Mar raised their level to heights never seen before. Until the 90s, Beira-Mar had never finished in the top half of the table. But in the first season of the decade, they finished in the surprising 6th place, reached the Portuguese Cup final after eliminating a top-tier Boa Vista, and even against a clearly superior Porto in the final, Beira-Mar held on strong until the 90th minute. In extra time, they eventually gave in to the pressure and were defeated. But the club's story didn't end there. António Sousa played 20 minutes in that final. The experienced midfielder who had played for Porto and Sporting and represented Portugal at Euro 84 and the 1986 World Cup was ending his career trying to give back to the club that launched them. He stayed a few more years but left before the club was relegated again. For most realists, that relegation felt like the end of a dream, one that would be impossible to replicate anytime soon. But as always, Beira-Mar rose again, returned to the top flight in 1998 to live the wildest season in their history. And guess who brought them back? Maybe the club's biggest legend, António Sousa. However, their return to the first division wasn't easy. It wasn't like 1990-91. No brilliant performances, no squad flying high. The team struggled to stay up and ended with a crazy 4-4 draw on the final match day, resulting in relegation. But in the cup, Oh, that was a different story. That cup edition deserves a video of its own. Benfica, Porto and Sporting were eliminated in the early rounds by Vitória de Setúbal, Torreões and Gil Vicente respectively. Even Boa Vista, the next big candidate, got knocked out by Esposende with a historic run that ended only in the semis. And those semifinals? Completely surreal. Beira-Mar vs Vitória de Setúbal, Campo Maiorense vs Esposende. Eventually, Beira-Mar and Campo Maiorense reached the final. It was hard to pick a favorite. Both were massive underdogs in their own right, but morale-wise, Beira-Mar seemed worst off, having just been relegated 2 weeks earlier, unlike Campo Maiorense, who had secured safety on the final match day. It was a unique final, and it got heated. Referee Lucilo Batista handed out yellow cards like cornetos on a hot summer day. Midway through the second half, Beira-Mar were already down to 9 men. But the coach's son, Ricardo Souza, only 20 years old, became the hero of the day, scoring the winning goal that immortalized the final and Beira-Mar's legacy. Those who lived it will never forget such an unusual cup edition. Giants knocked out early, Esposende running riot, and Beira-Mar winning the cup the same year they were relegated, thanks to the unbreakable bond between a father and his son. Now, if you're expecting me to continue this video by telling you how Ricardo Souza carried Beira-Mar in the UEFA Cup the following year and became even greater than his dad, then just forget it. Sadly, that was the peak of Ricardo's career. He never made it at his own club, nor did he earn a single senior international cap. Though Beira-Mar did bounce back again. The Aveiro club would enjoy 6 more seasons in the top division throughout the 2000s and another 3 in the early 2010s, but then came a fall from which they never fully recovered. The truth is, the modern stadium built for year 2004 came with high maintenance costs. And like many clubs that either renovated or built new stadiums, Beira-Mar became a victim of expenses they couldn't afford. On top of that, they welcomed investors who did nothing to help. In fact, quite the opposite. First came an investment group led by Iranian Majid Pishiari in 2011. He abandoned the club after leaving it in the second tier and in a worse financial state. Later, an Italian group called Pieralisi took over, but they didn't improve things either. After repeated salary delays, Beira-Mar couldn't raise the funds to register for the second league in 2015. Due to multiple irregularities, they couldn't even register for the third tier. And so, Beira-Mar were relegated to the district leagues for the first time since the early days of their history. Sometimes though, you need to hit rock bottom to remember who you are, what you represent, and what really matters. Forced to return to their old stadium, Beira-Mar reconnected with their fans. After all, the old Estádio Mário Duarte was located in the heart of Aveiro, unlike the big new stadium that sat far from the club's roots. This reconnection brought packed stands, the kind they hadn't seen in ages. In fact, they even had a better average attendance in 2015-16 than many Primeira Liga clubs. Today, they're no longer at rock bottom. Sadly, they had to give up the stadium that brought back their spirit and return to using the Municipal de Aveiro as their only home. But training facility improvement projects are underway. And look, being safe in the 4th tier and fighting for promotion to Liga 3 in the current Portuguese football landscape, where so many historic clubs have collapsed, that's not really bad at all. This is the story of Beira-Mar, a club I respect and that I grew up watching fly higher. Sadly, I can't say this is a unique story. Many historic Portuguese clubs have sunk in recent years. And as painful as it is for each club's fans, for many, it really will be their end. Football has a very short history compared to the history of the world, so it's still hard to accept that certain clubs can fall and never rise again. I mean, I get what you think. If they have support, how can they die? The truth is, they might not die, but fans alone can't save them. And if the projects aren't viable for investors, club will stay stuck in limbo until the fans who once supported them in life die too. And no one is left to care about a team that never wins. I just wish that was wrong and that wasn't such an accurate description of the typical Portuguese fan. Sorry for the dark ending, but sometimes it's impossible not to reflect on the future of these clubs that may seem irrelevant to some but mean the world to others. So, I ask you again what I asked you at the start. Was it worth hearing Beira-Mar's story? If yes, then you have to subscribe to Throne FC. I've already covered clubs like Tondela, Naval 1º de Maio, Belenenses, Boa Vista, Marítimo, Rio Ave, Paz, and many more. And if you think this was a waste of your time, then let me suggest a detailed breakdown of the recent rise of the Portuguese national team and what the future might hold. Should Ronaldo start at the 2026 World Cup? Find out in this video. I'll see you there.